Building a dashboard in Smartsheet is pretty straightforward. To begin, we need a sheet that we'll call the raw data sheet. It just has all the raw data in it. Next, we'll need another sheet that we'll call the metric sheet, because it's going to hold all the calculations for computing the metrics that are going to be shown on the dashboard. And then third, you need the dashboard itself. So that's 3 different Smartsheet products. The easiest one to get started with is the raw data sheet. So let's go ahead and just create one real quick. As you can see here, I've made a new sheet. I called it raw data sheet. And all I'm going to do is rename these columns something a little more appropriate. And then I'm going to populate it with some dummy data. And then we'll get started with our next step, which is creating the metric sheet, which creates all of the underlying calculations for computing the metrics that we're going to show on our dashboard. Let's get started. Alright, so we've gone ahead and created our raw data sheet, and I'm going to walk you through it real quick. We're just going to pretend that we're capturing a list of projects, and we want to show a dashboard about each project or the projects as a whole. So this raw data sheet has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 columns. Project name, who the owner is, the health, whether it's green, yellow, or red, status, complete, in progress, or not started, how much progress has been made, the start date, and then the completion date. So now that we have this, and maybe you've already got this, let's go ahead and split this screen in half. On the left side, I'm going to keep this sheet, and on the right side, I'm going to show the new sheet that we're going to be creating called the metric sheet. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so I've split my screen now, and you can see the raw data sheet that we already created on the left side here. And I created a new sheet that's shown on the right. I called it metric sheet. And this is the sheet where we're going to perform all of our calculations to come up with our metrics that we can show on our dashboard. To get started, I'm going to click right up here in the first row in the first column of the metric sheet, and we're going to start typing the first metric we want to show. Let's pretend I wanted to know the total number of projects that are, we'll just say total number not started. Make this a little bigger. We're going to call this column the metric. On the right, we're going to actually calculate that. We'll call this the value. And then let's do the same thing for the number in progress, or the quantity, I guess I could say, in progress. And then the number that are completed. So for the first one, I want to calculate the number of projects that have the status not started. And in the value column, I'm going to say equals. We're going to use the count function. And since we're trying to be specific to those projects with a certain status, we're going to say count if, open parentheses, and as you can see, Smartsheet's saying you're in this highlighted portion of this function right now, the highlighted portion being the range. What range of numbers or statuses in this case do you want to reference? We're going to go to another sheet. So we're going to say reference another sheet, and we're going to click the raw data sheet. You got to find it in your list of sheets, and then we're going to go, this is all of those columns in the raw data sheet. We're just going to click the header status. Don't click and drag, don't do that, because then you limit yourself to only these projects. If you start adding on in the future, then you won't be including those. So just click the entire column and say insert reference. Then say comma, and the criterion is equals, quotation marks, not started. Enter. And there's your value. So 6 projects, and let's make sure. If we look over here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 projects that are not started. Now let's do the same thing for the number of projects in progress. All we're going to do is we're going to come up to the first one we already did. We're going to click and drag. And for the in progress, we're going to change just this second part of the argument, or the formula. From not started, we're going to change it to in progress, and make sure you spell it and space it exactly like you have it in the actual raw data. And then same thing for completed. And actually, it's complete, not past tense. Just say complete, just like this. Enter. And that's it. So now we have 3 metrics that we can use. Something I'd like to stop and do right now is I suggest we add another column that's called description. And this is where you're going to describe what it is, and you're going to say counting the number of projects that are not started. Same thing for this one, except that are in progress, and then again that are completed. Now we can go ahead and start building our dashboard. Here's our new dashboard. All I did was I said create dashboard, and once you're here, the first thing you need to do is click add widget. Widgets are all of the different things you can possibly add to a dashboard. If you have a different license than I do, you may have more options, but this is more than enough to get us started with the basics. I'm going to give you a quick once over. From top left to bottom right, you have a metric. This is what we just created our metric sheet for, to make this part easy. Then you can also show charts, which we're not going to be able to get to in this session, shortcuts, reports, images, titles, and rich text. To get started, I suggest you start every dashboard with a title at the top. So I'm going to click title, and we're going to call this sample dashboard. You can change all the formatting, and when you're done, say done. I'm going to put this in what I think is the center, and now we're on our way. I want to create a widget. So now we're going to go right into those metrics. This is why we created that metric sheet. So I click metric, and then you have to start up here at the top left. You're going to add data, and we're going to go into our metric sheet, and it's going to show you all of the data that you have, and you're just going to click whichever one you want to start with. You can click multiple cells, but to make it easy, I'm going to click the first one, and we're going to show the number that's not started. We're going to rename the title by double clicking on it, not started. And then I always thought it looked better to just center this. I'm going to get rid of that because we already put the title at the top. I'm going to center the title. And that's it. So here is the number of projects that are not started. There's 6 of them. We're going to do the same thing for the other ones. So now we've created our dashboard. We're showing 3 metric widgets, which is pretty basic. If you want to learn how to add reports or charts or anything else for dashboards, let me know in the comments below. But for now, let's consider this at least the basics of a dashboard. Once you're done, you click this icon for publishing it to the web, and then you'll have a link that you can share with people, or if you know who you want to share it with, click share, add their email addresses, and press share. Thank you very much.